Welcome back to another deep dive with Mindflow English. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the scent of roasted herbs, the warmth of a crowded kitchen, and the soft glow of a November sunset. In the United States, this is the essence of Thanksgiving. It is a day that feels like a collective exhale, a moment when a fast-paced nation finally slows down to gather around a table. But beneath the layers of turkey, cranberry sauce, and family traditions lies a complex tapestry of human survival. Today, we aren't just talking about a holiday, we are exploring the intersection of two worlds. We are looking at how desperation, courage, and a fragile peace created the foundation of a modern superpower. As you listen, you won't just be learning about history, you'll be absorbing advanced English structures and rich descriptive vocabulary. Let's journey back to where the flow of American history truly began. To understand Thanksgiving, we must first look at the shadows of 17th century England. Imagine a world where your thoughts were not your own. The king held the keys to both the kingdom and the church. For a small group of dissidents, known as the separatists or pilgrims, the air in England had become too thin to breathe. They were not just looking for a new home. They were looking for an empty canvas where they could paint their own destiny. However, leaving was an act of treason. They faced a choice: stay and wither in silence, or risk everything on a wilderness of waves. They chose the latter. They weren't soldiers or explorers. They were tailors, farmers, and weavers. They were ordinary people pushed to extraordinary limits. In 1620, the Mayflower set sail, a ship that was never designed for the brutal Atlantic, carrying 102 souls toward a horizon they could only imagine. The crossing took 66 days. Try to visualize the scale of that journey. 102 people cramped into a space no larger than a modern volleyball court. The air was thick with the smell of damp wood and sickness. Storms didn't just rock the ship, they threatened to snap it like a twig. There were no private rooms, no fresh water, and no news from the world they left behind. One passenger described the experience as being trapped between the fury of the sky and the hunger of the sea. Yet, in that darkness, a community was born. They weren't just passengers anymore, they were a body politic, bound by a legal agreement called the Mayflower Compact. They realized that in the new world, their only hope was each other. When they finally saw the gray, rocky coast of Cape Cod, they didn't find a paradise. They found a frozen wilderness. Arrival was not a victory. It was the beginning of a nightmare. The Pilgrims arrived in November, the worst possible time. The ground was iron-hard with frost. They had no houses, and their food supplies were rotting. That first winter was a brutal filter. By spring, only half of the 102 remained. Imagine the psychological toll: burying your family in the frozen earth during the day and huddling for warmth in a drafty hut at night. This period is often called the starving time. They were on the brink of vanishing. But history is often changed by a single encounter. In the spring of 1621, a man walked out of the woods and spoke to them, not in a strange tongue, but in English. His name was Somerset, and he was the bridge to the people who actually owned this land. The land the Pilgrims called New was actually very old. It was the home of the Wampanoag, the people of the first light. Their leader, Massasoit, faced a difficult decision. Should he destroy these weak, starving newcomers or form an alliance? He chose diplomacy, enter Squanto, Tisquantum. His story is one of the most tragic and miraculous in history. He had been kidnapped by English explorers years earlier, sold into slavery in Spain, escaped to London, and finally found his way back home, only to find his entire tribe had died of disease. Despite his pain, he became the Pilgrims' guardian angel. He taught them the chemistry of the land. He showed them how to bury fish with corn seeds to fertilize the sandy soil. He taught them which berries were medicine and which were poison. Without Squanto, there would be no Thanksgiving, and there would be no United States. By the autumn of 1621, the fields were golden. The Pilgrims had survived. To celebrate, they didn't just have a meal, they had a festival. When Massasoit arrived with 90 of his warriors, they brought 5 deer as a gift. For 3 days, the air was filled with the smell of roasting venison, wild turkey, and corn pottage. There were no forks, they ate with their hands and knives, and certainly no pumpkin pies as we know them today. But there was something more valuable, a moment of genuine human connection. They competed in shooting matches and wrestling. They shared stories through gestures and broken words. It was a fragile, beautiful window of harmony between two cultures that could not have been more different. For 2 centuries, Thanksgiving remained a local New England tradition. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that a woman named Sarah Josepha Hale, the author of Mary Had a Little Lamb, decided it should be a national holiday. She wrote letters for 17 years to 5 different presidents. Finally, in 1863, during the bloodiest year of the American Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln listened. The country was literally tearing itself apart. Lincoln realized that the nation needed a spiritual anchor. He proclaimed Thanksgiving a national holiday, not to celebrate a feast, but to ask for healing and peace. He turned a harvest festival into a tool for national reconciliation. Today, Thanksgiving is a massive cultural phenomenon. It's the Macy's Parade, American football, and the chaotic joy of Black Friday. But as our understanding of history grows, so does the holiday. Many people now recognize a national day of mourning. For many Native Americans, Thanksgiving is a reminder of the centuries of hardship that followed that first meal. At Mindflow English, we believe that true fluency in a language involves understanding these nuances. Thanksgiving today is about inclusive gratitude, acknowledging the beauty of the harvest while honoring the difficult truths of the past. As we finish this journey, think about your own life. Gratitude is more than a feeling, it is a practice. Just like the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag had to learn to understand each other, you are learning to understand a new language and a new culture. Every new word you learn is a seed planted in your own mental harvest. Thank you for spending these 26 minutes with us. May your path to fluency be as resilient as the story we shared today. Sit back, reflect on what you've learned, and we will see you in the next flow. This is Mindflow English,